Welcome back to the Fourth and Future podcast. I'm Rob Moore, and on today's episode, we're going to talk with a proven leader who elevates every program he touches, from D3 to D2, now the Ivy League. He's a New England native with more than a decade of coaching experience. He's built a reputation as an energetic defensive strategist. It's basically a football Cinderella story, but he's the one holding the wand. Let's just call it, I guess, the Mulrooney effect. Please welcome Brown University defensive coordinator Dan Mulrooney. Dan, welcome.
Let's go, man. That was awesome.
You
That
like
fired,
that? All
fired me
right.
up. That was awesome.
We both got some energy, so I know you're an energetic guy.
Yeah.
Right now, you're up there in New England at Brown, up in the New England states up there, and it's cold, right? It's cold right now up there.
Yeah, if I could show you my Zoom camera, there's like at least a foot of snow on the ground. I'm in my little home gym here, so I appreciate you having me. Super grateful to be here.
Awesome. Well, one thing before we get started, sorry about the Patriots. Sorry about the Super Bowl loss there, man.
Yeah, that was tough. That was tough, but we'll respond. It was good to be there.
I hear you. So, talk to me. Yeah, tell me about your early career. Right? You've seen like me. We have an energy. We have a passion for football. Right? How'd your story start? Where? High school? Explain that to me. Your step from high school to college and then and into coaching.
Yeah, I think it starts with my parents, right? Like honestly, like I have an older brother. I have a younger sister. I was the middle of three. We grew up in a family of overachievers. My family, my parents raised us right. They raised us, hardworking people. My dad's a mover. He moves furniture. Still to this day, moves furniture every day. Puts pianos on his back and lugs it up the.
How old is he? How
He's
old
like
is he?
67 now. He's still doing it. He's the strongest dude I know. But we grew up, me and my brother, on that truck. And every summer, whatever, he owns his own business. And hard work was real, right? And it brought us to that hard work. But we didn't want to do that, right? So my brother was a football player. We both started playing football in Pop Warner. He ended up going to play at Union College, a D3 school, really good high academic, football school. He won a lot of games. Then he graduated his master's from Harvard. I played at Holy Cross High School in Waterbury, Connecticut. Was a great player, was a great tailback, was, number whatever in the state. And then got a full scholarship to Boston College, where I graduated in 2011. Played on some great teams. I started there in 2007. We won two ACC titles.
Oh wow.
Matt Ryan was my quarterback. Luke Kuechly was a 3-year teammate, good friend of mine.
Oh, Luke,
Yeah,
man, he's a monster.
yeah, Hall of Fame now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a great team, great experience. And then I had injured 2 years when I was there in 2009 and 2011. So after I graduated, I had the opportunity to get my master's at Stony Brook, which is FCS. So, I played at the FBS level, and then the FCS levels where I finished my career after I graduated. And I was a great player there. I was Defensive Newcomer of the Year as a safety at Stony Brook. We went on to the third round of the playoffs, and we lost to Montana State, my last football game ever. And then, then I started coaching. Football's in my blood like you and your kids. It's something that, started at a very young age, and it's just consumed my life. From, you cut me open, right? There's pigskin in my blood, I swear, right? Like it just consumed my life from a young age, whether it was, playing video games about it, playing in the street, whatever it is, like football has taught me everything, and super grateful to be in the position I'm in.
Who would you say growing up or throughout your career was your role model? Who would be your role model?
Yeah, I mean, outside my parents, right? Like the work ethic instilled from my parents and my dad leaving every day at 5 a.m. and coming home at midnight, right? Making sure there's food on the table for me and my brother. But outside of that, I think it started at a young age. When I was in youth football, I think I started. My older brother was playing like the Pop Warner thing, and I started at like 5 years old, right? And I think at the youth level, something that means a lot to me, because now I have three little boys, is you need the right coach at the
Hmm.
youth level. Okay. Like I had what I call my football dad at the youth level. And that guy from 5 years old followed me until I was a senior in high school. So his son, who's also my best friend, was the quarterback, and he coached us. He was a firefighter, and he played college football, and he coached us all the way until our senior year of high school. But he taught me the right way to play the game. He taught me how to do it safely. He taught me how to do it with good technique. He taught me why the game was so special, And that was my football dad. My dad couldn't make a lot of my games, but Steve Kroos, who I ended up hiring as a college coach at Anna Maria later on, um, was definitely my football dad and taught me how to play the game the right way. And without him, I wouldn't be where I'm at 100%. I mean, youth football taught me, he taught me everything about football.
And it's funny because I have the same kind of experience. My dad didn't make it to many of my football games growing up, but I had a coach that really, John Phillips, shout out John Phillips if you're out there. He was a Lycoming College, actually graduate.
Oh, yeah.
He just got me so into football. Same thing. My wife calls me crazy. Live it, love it, breathe it. But you're 100% right. I think, do you feel like there's times you have those coaches that there's a kid with maybe that talent, right? And they're young, they're kids, right? They're in Pop Warner youth football. Like, let them play different positions, let them move around, have fun, right? But coaches take it a little too serious sometimes at that pop level, that small level, and then the kids are done. They hate the sport.
Yeah. And I think that definitely is a piece of it, right? Like I go and I'm speaking next week about, how to win with less practice contact and subconcussive hits and things like that. I'm speaking in Connecticut about it. But, it's one of these things that at the young age when you're young, right? I think my first position was center.
Ah,
I'm a skill player, you know what I mean? But my first position was center, and then I moved to tight end, and then I was doing relay races. The memories I have off those early days was more just fun, right? It was more just doing bear crawls up a hill with my buddies, like doing
right.
obstacle courses. I mean, what we really knew about the plays, I don't know, but it was fun being with each other, and it was fun that we were doing it safely, right? And you see so many coaches, and it scares me having three young boys. Football's not what it used to be when me and you played. You know what I mean? We don't just line up 10 yards apart from each other and hit people in the head, right? That's not, you don't want these subconcussive hits, happening at a young age. And you got to do it safely. You got to do it the right way. And I was blessed to be able to be a part of that, and, I think at the youth level, I fell in love with it and it stayed with me till right now. Like I'm fired up to be talking to you.
And that's a good thing you just brought up, and this is where I struggle sometimes when I had coached too at the youth level. Where is it? You talked about the hits, right? The kids taking hits and all that, but football is obviously a violent game. You get hit, you're getting bashed around. Where's the fine line between we need to practice hitting, we need to practice the physical tackling, but staying away from that major contact because, the old school coaches would look at both of us and go, "Oh, you guys are weak. That's how the champions are built, the warriors. And if you don't teach them to hit like that, you're going to get rolled over on that field." Tell me about that.
Yeah, I think it depends how you define toughness, right? Like, what makes you tough, right? To me, at the college level, I think it's tougher to go full speed and stay on your feet, right? You know what I mean? Like, it depends
Mm-hmm.
how you define tough. Like, right, what's tough? Like, back old school football, like you're talking about, like, tough is like nutcracker drills, angle tackle, where the kid can't make a move and you just have to run into each other. Does that teach you really how to tackle, or is that just hitting each other in the head? So it defines like what's tough to me is doing drills that create, tough environments, right? So like if I was a youth coach, I would spend a lot more time on the approach of the tackle, maybe the finishing of the tackle with leg grabbing, clamping thigh boards, right? Running through bags, tackling safely on tackle mats, right? Ways you could tackle safely. And obviously in the game, it's unavoidable. But during practice, I mean, at Brown, we don't hit. I mean, we don't hit during the week. I mean, the NFL, I mean, you're going to get cut real quick if you're on the ground. I mean, they're putting
Mm-hmm.
way too much money into everything. And now even at the college level with the NIL, like if you're on the ground a lot in college or the NFL, like you're gonna be cut, right? So the ability to teach them at a young age, this is how the game has changed a little bit. What's actually tough? Like a cat looks lazy and just kind of looks lazy as he sits there, right? But he knows, I know this, if a mouse runs across, right, he's pretty tough and he can get that thing, right? So like I don't believe in that. I used to, right? But I don't think practicing full speed and tackling guys to the ground is the correct way in modern football, especially at the youth level for sure. I mean, I honestly don't believe with my three boys they'll do contact football until high school because I don't know if I trust the coaches, and I would have to have a real conversation with the coaches.
That's interesting. I've had a lot of parents asking me about that. Should I put my kid in tackle football? Should I put my kid in tackle football? Both my kids started at five, Pop Warner.
Yep.
Played high school. Obviously, my younger son's in high school right now. I coached, so I felt, and the coaches that I coached with, I felt were great.
That's different.
So it's hard. Yeah, it's a tough decision to make. So let's talk about your journey. So
Sure.
you go from Boston College, Stony Brook, and then you wind up at this small college, Division III, Anna Maria. Where's
Yep.
this even at? And to explain the program there. I heard they were not so great until you arrived on campus.
Yeah, so I wanted to start coaching right away, and when I was done playing and I couldn't play anymore, basically all my wheels fell off, and you're too hurt to play and make it to the NFL. Your dreams are kind of shattered. But I started coaching. I found a job at WPI, which is a Division III engineering school, so high level engineering school in Worcester, Mass. I was blessed to get a job from Chris Robertson, who's still one of my best friends. I coached for about 3 days at that place, and I found my calling, right? Like it was so much more invigorating to me than even playing, right? Being able to, influence young men and being able to positively and meaningfully change their lives in such a great way by being a mentor was life changing. I did that for 3 seasons as the defensive coordinator at WPI. It was great. We turned that program around. We went to our first bowl game. We did some great things. We had 2 winning seasons in a row. It's never been done. And then at the young age of 26, I thought I had it all figured out. So I applied for a head coaching job right down the road. So it's like right down the road, like a mile down the road, was Anna Maria College, a school that only has a couple hundred, just under 1,000 students. Was a newer program, newer football program, maybe only 10 years old, 14 years old, something like that. But they never won more than one game, right? So their best season was 1-9 or 1-10. Um, and there was probably a bunch of people that didn't want the job, but at 26, I might have been the only guy raising my hand. So I raised my hand and said I could do it. And I got hired and walked into my first team meeting, and there was 17 players on the team
Oh my God.
in college. Yeah, so it was a massive turnaround. And 4 years later, we won the championship in the league and went to the NCAA playoffs for the first time. So it was an awesome turnaround. It was a lot of hard work. I had awesome people around me, um, and just the players were incredible, just buying into my vision.
And then from there, this is where I met you. You then went to Lock Haven University in Pennsylvania, right outside. If no one knows where Lock Haven's at, Penn State, and then right outside is Lock Haven. Great small town. I'm from Northeast Pennsylvania. Some good football up that way. And you went there, and I know Lock Haven. I have a couple friends who graduated from Lock Haven.
Yep.
Not the best of football either. No knock to them, but then here comes the Mulrooney effect again. And tell me about Lock Haven.
Yeah. So after we won the championship, Division III, I wanted to challenge myself again, and took another huge, massive rebuild. So Lock Haven was even worse than Anna Maria, right? They hadn't had a winning season since 1970 something. They've been 1 in 1,000 for the last 30 years, and have no tradition, no culture, really no winning habits. That excited me. It's the same thing I just did, but now there's scholarships. Now there's a tougher league, the PSAC, the PSAC, they call it, in Pennsylvania, has a lot of history, has great coaches. It was another, kind of, pin on my shirt here to try to do something, a massive rebuild again. And, found a lot of success, right? We had 2 seasons in a row where we won 10 games in 2 years. We won the most games in a 3-year span since 1950. We had NFL players come through there. We had guys go to the combine. It was a really cool deal. The community was awesome, small town community. It was really fun for me and my wife, and raising a family out there in a small town. It was really fun. And then, we did a great job, right? And then I was blessed to be able to pass it off when I left to my current staff that was there. So
Yeah.
the current head coach, Joe Battaglia, was my offensive coordinator, and my whole staff, was retained because of the job we've done. So same thing happened to Anna Maria. So when you do a good job at the school, your staff gets rewarded as well, even though, I was looking to, move on in my career.
And the amazing thing there is, and I always say this, and it's no knock, obviously, Nick Saban, the greatest college football coach probably of all time.
Sure.
I always do say I think it's a lot easier to coach 5 star when you have a lot of 5 star athletes. Maybe not easier, I shouldn't say it that way, but you've got a lot more to work with. Now he's worked his way up to that level, obviously, but taking programs and turning them around, I mean, that is awesome. Like that just must, I don't know, your blood must be flowing. I mean, it's just what it
Yeah.
is.
It's like you're an entrepreneur, right? Like you have a vision, you get people to buy in. I think you win anywhere you are, whether it's real estate, whether it's a business, whether it's football, right? You win with people, right? I'm a huge person about that. Have super positive energy to myself, that really can be contagious, to get the most work out of people. And once they buy into a vision and a group of great people buy into a vision, we're pretty hard to stop. So, I had great people around me that were passionate like me. And, we did a great job. I remember recruiting your son. I know you went up to camp up there and hopefully made a great impression on you. I know he was committed to me for a while before he chose when I left. But, we recruited everywhere. And that was our biggest thing is how can we be different? How can we recruit? And how can we be different in a space that's all the same?
No, you did a great job. And I just remember being in the room. My wife was there, and you gave your speech in the beginning to all the families and the kids. And and the camp. We came to the camp, and I remember the camp specifically because I don't know if you'll remember this, but I remember two things. One was when you spoke to those kids in the beginning, every kid's attention was straight on you. Everyone. Not there wasn't one kid on their phone. There wasn't one kid doing anything else. They were straight on your attention. You had their attention right off the bat. And I remember just sitting up there and I'm watching you come up to me. She's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "What do you mean? What am I doing?" You're like, "Come on down here. Come on the field. Check this out." So that was a pretty cool experience being down there watching the kids practice, going through the camp drills, and the staff was great. I mean, you guys were awesome there at Lock Haven. So, Lock Haven, what happened then? You get the call. I mean, obviously from Brown, Ivy League. I think everybody knows Brown University. What was that like? The moment you're like, "Hey Dan, would you like to become the defensive coordinator at Brown University?"
Yeah, it was a lot of hard work, elevated off my chest, right? We're from New England, right? So my wife is from Franklin, Mass, so about 20 minutes away from Providence. And, we were 7 hours from family, raising a small family. I have three little boys and and a girl on the way. So I'll have four coming up here in March.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate it. And, it's just one of those things that just matched up. When you're in a career that requires a lot of movement and things like that, sometimes it just matches up perfectly and aligns kind of emotionally and physically and spiritually, whatever you believe in, to work out in a certain way. And worked really hard at Lock Haven. I love that place. I was immensely happy there. But sometimes when you're presented an opportunity that's awesome and makes sense with family. It was a no-brainer for me to challenge myself again at the Division I level in an academic league that is very pure in a lot of ways. I'm sure we'll get into it more. But I'm super grateful for Coach Perry. James Perry is the head coach that, gave me this opportunity. And we had a lot of fun year one.
And then let's talk about your wife because that part right there, she has to buy into. She's part of the team, right? She's part of the team. And, I know football coaches, man, you live, breathe it, sleep it. This is all that's going through your mind. I'm sure you're sitting at dinner sometimes and it's just a nice dinner and you're like, "Oh, but what about this player? What about, oh my," and you're remembering things. Like she has to buy into them. I'm sure she's a supportive wife. And tell me about that. Like, we're here, we move to here, we go to here. And Dan, it's all about football, but it's about your family. But I'm just saying, tell me about how her role
Yeah.
in this.
I mean, she's right upstairs right now watching my 1 year old. I mean, she is. I can get emotional talking about it, honestly. Like the amount of sacrifice she does, so I can live my dream. Right? There's not many people that take a back seat so that someone else can live a life they want to live and hit all their goals and aspirations. Right? Like you have to be a special type of woman to take a back seat, to other people's careers and other people's things. So, I mean, like I said, she's my rock. She does everything for us as a family. She raises those kids by herself. A lot of the nights I'm not here. I'm recruiting for months at a time. Where she's alone every weekend when I'm playing games. And I mean, it takes a superwoman to raise kids, as you know. So, yeah, but in the beginning, she was all in, right? And I think that's something that is unique to her. and unique to how we started our relationship. But, yeah, I mean, I've been pretty blessed. I only moved about 4 times in 13 years. So some coaches don't even move out of the same box. They live in the same stuff. So, everything I do is, husband focused first, dad focused, brother focused, son focused. And then, what I do is not ultimately who I am. Right. So I think you look at it like what's important. I could, everyone's replaceable in their career, but, your kids are always going to be home. Right. Your wife's always going to be there for you. Right. Like put those priorities in a list and just promise yourself you're going to be a certain type of way because it's hard to break promises you make to yourself.
Right. And then, we talk about recruiting, right? Kids, every kid's got a highlight reel. They're getting out there. Everybody wants to go D1. Obviously, that's the goal for these kids. What do you look for in the recruiting process? Right? Meaning you're looking at the full rounded athlete, but tell me what you look for in a player.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on the position. It's kind of loaded. We could talk on
Right.
this a bunch, but I would say, I'm looking for someone who has it all together, right? Mentally too, right? Like has the full picture, understands what's going on. Um, there's one thing to have measurables, and if you have measurables and you're big and you're 6'5" and 250 pounds and run a 4.5, you don't need to respond to emails. You don't need to be persistent to coaches. You don't need to do, a lot of other things. But there's this 90% of the group that does want to play college football. And maybe it's smaller, but they're all very alike, right? So how do you find an edge when you're like everyone else? Like you're a 6'1" linebacker,
Hmm.
270, and every state has a lot of them, right? And how are you going to find an edge to find a school that wants you? To me, I've always really valued dual interest, right? So like I don't want to beg anyone to come play for me. I guess if that makes sense. I
Yeah.
want someone to be persistent. I want someone to email me, start a relationship with me, be true, come visit me at the school multiple times. I want someone that wants to come play for me. Does that always be the case? Is that always going to be, do I have to, convince guys to visit campus and things like that? Of course. Right. But there's a persistence level that's required, especially when you're in that subgroup of 90%. Uh, that's important, right? Like, how many times do you visit campus? How many times do you go out with your folks and check out a camp like you did, right? How many times does it for a coach to email you back, or Twitter you DM you back? There's persistence that I think needs to happen, and that's probably my best advice for kids.
And then, you get these recruits in and they come to Brown, right? And what separates, meaning you have a high school athlete, they've all obviously made it to Brown, they're good athletes, they meet the standards academically. And what separates that guy who just wins the job out? I mean, they're all kind of the same, but what separates that dude that just took your starting safety position, coming in as maybe not a freshman, a sophomore, maybe a freshman, and just wins it? What separates him from the rest?
Yeah, it's all mindset, right? Like
Yeah.
anything else. Like we tell our players. I just had a meeting with our guys the other day, and it's like, I don't want you. I want your soul. Like people that put their soul into it are the ones that find the results that, you know, they find the results they want, right? Like what you do, success is pretty easy, right? It's just discipline and consistency. That's really all it is. I mean, if you look at it that way, so if you're super disciplined, super consistent, have your goals made, short term, long term, you're going to hit something. It might not be, what you think it wants to think it's always going to be, but you're going to hit something if you're disciplined, if you're consistent, and you make a promise to yourself that you're going to get that done, right? It's the people that put their absolute soul into it. And that's like anything, right? Like Kobe Bryant was great because he put his soul into it more than anybody else. Like he found his edge, right? He might have had no life, but that's what it requires, right? Like Luke Kuechly had no life either, right? He had no social life. He didn't talk to anybody. He didn't go out. He didn't do anything. All he did was he had one goal, made a promise to himself, and hit it. So does that hurt other parts of life? Of sure. But to be great, like to truly be great at anything, I do believe there's a lot of sacrifice needed, right? There has to be sacrifice.
And it's amazing you brought that up because my first guest on the podcast was Vince Papali, and Vince was a guy who was overlooked his whole career. He was amazing. He was a track star, Dan. He was amazingly fast. 30-year-old walk on to the Eagles. Mark Wahlberg plays him in the movie. And I asked him the similar question, and it was like, it's sacrifice. If you're willing to pay the price, and I can't remember the exact quote, it's going to kill me, but basically the quote was, if you're willing to pay the price, you will do it. Like that's the whole goal is the sacrifice.
Yeah, and I think mindset's important, right? Like, having someone that can push you, and it has to come from you, right? Like life, right? It's you versus you. We tell our players that all the time, right? Like, don't be looking out here and what's this guy doing? What's that guy doing? What's social media? Who has this offer? Who has that? Because it's just distracting the goal, right? Like the goal is getting better every day, getting bigger, getting stronger, getting faster, putting yourself out there a little more. And,
I like what you just said there because I see that. I see the kids down here in South Florida and they're watching. They're following each other. They're looking, oh, he got three offers here and I only have one. And focus on yourself. Focus. Yes, that congratulate that man, but focus on yourself. It's like
right,
you versus you. I love that.
yeah, half of them are probably offers or fake offers.
Yeah, do you see that a lot actually?
Yeah, I mean, people who are early in the recruiting process and fill out 500 offers, you know, obviously they can't take all those people, right? So it's depending on what their strategy is, as a program. Here at Brown, we don't really do that.
Right.
We try to get that dual interest, get them on campus, make sure they have the grades. The thing with the Ivy League is it's just later, right? So we need high academic students. So it's just naturally later because we need full junior scores. We need
Hmm.
SATs. We need a bunch of things that require length. So offering someone early might sound great, but if they have a C on their transcript their junior year, they're not going to get in. Get approved.
And you see a lot of it, the kids post on Instagram, committed, 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 committed. What does that even mean for parents out there that are watching this too? I mean, until you sign on the dotted line, I mean, that's the deal, right?
Right. And there's verbal commitments, which is kind of a handshake agreement, right? Where uh, you're committing to sign, whether it's signing day at the Division II or FCS or FBS level. Um, and now with NIL at the FBS level, it's starting to get crazy. But we don't, yeah, at the Ivy League, we don't subscribe to the NLI. Sorry.
Hmm.
It's all about getting in, and then once you're matriculated in that process, uh, then you can commit. We announce our class, I think, in end of May. So we work
Okay.
a different timeline than a lot of FCS schools. We have our own different set of rules, but we play the same schedule. So there's a lot of constraints that we have, but it's a pure form of the game.
And then tell me, you know, I was always taught to be humble, but then you want to be confident too, right?
I
How,
love
how,
it.
how do you do that? How do you tell a kid in high school to be humble, but you also have to show that you want it? What's your advice to that?
Yeah, I think it's all about how you represent yourself, right? Like you always have to, as a football player, cocky, confident, right? You gotta be right in between, right? Like there's a difference, right? And it's always like I was a punt returner, I was a kick returner, I was a running back. I scored a lot of touchdowns in high school. I never once did a dance in the end zone. I never once spiked the ball. I mean, I scored 68 touchdowns in high school. Never once did any of that. But I'll tell you what, I was confident, right? If you kicked the ball to me, I was going to score, right? So there was this level, there was an aura, around good players. There was a thing that um, you have just naturally, whether it's the way you hold your shoulders up, your body language, the way you practice, the way you give effort. To me, those are really what's confident, not the million armbands and the thing hanging out and the five mouthpieces. I mean, that's fake tough to me. And those are the kids that I would go attack. Honestly, if I was on the field, I'd kick right to that kid. I'd make that kid quit. So some kids can back it up. I wasn't like that, but there was no aura around me that I gave crazy effort and I was a really good player. So I think those are what I try to tell our players to do. And I'm blessed to be at Brown to have a lot of just great people. Those kids are incredible. The best part about Brown is these players. They were raised correctly. They want the high academics, but they want the highest level football possible, and they don't want to deal with all the transfer portal nonsense that's going on.
What's the Ivy League? Explain Ivy League football to people out there. I mean, that maybe aren't used to Ivy League football. Give me a quick synopsis of Ivy
You're
League
putting on the
football.
spot. So yeah, we're Brown, Dartmouth, Cornell, Harvard, Yale, Princeton, University of Pennsylvania. There's about 8 schools in the league. Super competitive league, and we have non-scholarships where we're full need. So we meet full need, but we're a non-scholarship league for football, and the league's been around longer than any other league, right? There's some of the first games, were started on these campuses, back in 1900, 1800. A lot of tradition, right? And back in there's pictures. 1936 Rose Bowl was Brown versus USC, right? Like
Wild.
it started on our campuses. The great game of football that we all love that started in Connecticut and went to New Jersey, Princeton and Rutgers and up here. And then for years and years and years, we've been playing football here. And it's just a great tradition. And the FCS football, we've been in the FCS for a long time. And now that we're, for years and years and years, we're never allowed to compete in the FCS playoffs. We just played 10 games and there was a league champ, and that was it. Right. And we did play some out of conference games, but now last year they adopted us to allow to play in the playoffs, and Yale won our division and then went to the second round of the playoffs. They beat Youngstown State in the first round, who's a full
Oh wow. Yeah.
team out in Ohio, and then went on to play the national champions, Montana State, out in Montana, only lost by a touchdown. Harvard also made the playoffs, and Dartmouth was really close, who we beat in the last game of the season. So it's a super competitive league. We beat URI this year, who ended up in the fourth round of the playoffs, right? So the league's really competitive. To me, the coolest part is they're here for the right reasons, and there's no transfer portal, and the kids are here for 4 years, and they graduate and get a great degree and go live an insane life. These 8 schools are incredible in terms of life after football. What they can give you in terms of, there's a lot of good schools. I went to Boston College,
Right.
but these schools are at different, different career trajectories. So our kids are focused on what they want to do, and I'm shocked from last year just the high level football that's being played. There's a lot of great athletes in this conference.
And I just love that because you talked about it. To me, and I'm not downing anybody that's with the NIL and they're switching schools, going to the transfer portal every year. You got to do what you think is best for you. But I just some for me is about loyalty, is about consistency, and I feel like when you're loyal to somewhere, right, that's where you really build your character, build your person. And I guess you guys have a lot of athletes like that there, and student athletes, that right? Student athletes.
Definitely students. They're smart young men, right? And yeah, you're right. Like it's so rewarding as a coach too. Like I was at Lock Haven and we took 40 transfers a year. We had to, keep up with the Joneses, right? Like we have to, take 40, 50 transfers a year. And at that point, are you really coaching a team, or are you managing a roster, right? Is it really the culture you're wanting it to create? And what a rewarding experience the Ivy League is, because you go from what I was experiencing, only getting to know a kid for 3 months before they left, or have a kid freshman year, 18 years old, recruit him, recruit his family, know that he's coming for the right reasons, and then his freshman year, his sophomore year, his junior year, his senior year, watch him grow and develop. Isn't that the reason we all coach?
I
Like,
think so.
I'm pretty sure I got into it because of that. And I was kind of getting down the dumps, to be honest, when I was at Lock Haven at times when, I mean, you're just not doing that on a regular basis. It happened, it happened a lot, where I got a freshman, into a senior year. But a lot of the times it's how can we get better now? How do we get in the portal and get a better kid? How do we do this? How do we do that? Where at Brown in the Ivy League, it's been the most amazing, pure, what football's supposed to be, right? It's when I played football, right? We all came in as a freshman, 28 of us. We all graduated. All 28 of us graduated in the senior year. As a coach, it's amazing. It's super rewarding. So this league is special because it's probably the only league in the country right now that's not operating that way.
And you are a defensive coordinator, obviously the head defensive coordinator there. You're a defensive guy, love defense, played defense. What's your style? Tell people what's your defensive style? Are you coming at me? Are you blitzing the hell out of me? What's your style?
I'm an attacking personality, so that's what we do, right?
All right.
So we try to do a lot of things. I think it first starts with culture, right? Like the culture has to be you, though. It can't be some fake thing that you saw online and you're gonna do this. I mean, the players are so smart these days. They'll see right through a phony in 2 seconds, right? You just got to be who you are. Like if you're who you are, you bring energy, you bring juice, you have a lot of fun. People will follow you from 7-Eleven and back, right? If you're acting like you're fake and you're trying to be this tough macho yeller guy, even though you're not maybe that way, just
Right.
don't do that, right? Just be you. I'm Disney World, man. 24/7, I'm the same dude. So it's just, I think it starts with that. Our thing is fully charged. So our thing is, we're fully charged with energy, and we'll be hard to beat. And I judge coaches honestly off film, right? So like, I think resumes are great, and I don't even know if I have a resume anymore. But I think you press play on film. How hard are those dudes playing, right? How hard is all 11 of your players playing? That's your resume, right? Like if you can influence those kids as a coach, your job is to influence these kids. And I think respect builds influence, right? But if you can influence these kids to play extremely hard, your scheme doesn't matter. I mean, no one's going to line up with a bad scheme in college football, right? You're going to whether you run a 4-4
Right.
3 or you run a 3-4 4-2-5 or you run this amazing schematic. It's amazing. If the kids don't believe in it, like with conviction, and don't trust that's going to work, you're dead in the water, right? So you have to have a lot of knowledge behind it. You have to have a lot of conviction in terms of what you're doing. And if you have those two things and you're yourself every day and those kids will follow you, you got a chance to have a really good defense. And we broke almost a lot of the records, this year, just in year one,
That's awesome.
by doing things differently, right? Like you just gotta love the game, let it be contagious off you. And, the kids, whether it's tackling or explosive plays or sacks or interceptions, we led the conference in turnovers, second in sacks. Like we broke some amazing school records and things like that. So it was a lot of fun, man. And that's what
Congratulations.
it should be fun, right? That's the whole reason we play.
And then favorite football player growing up. Who was your guy?
Man, that's tough. I had these. My dad and my football dad, my coach there, used to have these VHSs, and they had Walter Payton and they had Lawrence Taylor, and they were these like I don't know NFL films back in the day, videotapes, and I might have watched those things. Walter Payton and Lawrence Taylor. I just watched them so many times growing up. I memorized all their moves. How Walter Payton ran up the sand hill, how Lawrence Taylor used to tomahawk the ball out. I was doing that stuff in Pop Warner because of those films. So growing up in Pop Warner, I used to put a little card of Walter Payton on my right thigh pad and a card of LT on my left thigh pad. And I would try to take their superpowers and try to play like them. So
Hopefully they weren't the rookie cards, and now they're like worth
probably all like
thousands of dollars.
Mickey Mantle on the dirt bike or whatever, right? Hopefully they weren't the rookie cards, but no, it was those two guys I think played the game the right way, and uh, outside of that, I was always a Giants fan and stuff like that. So not easy, so it's hard.
Ah, boy, you shouldn't have told me that one. So just a few more questions for you, Dan. I appreciate your time today. Any defensive coach that you really like? Obviously, you're Dan Mulrooney.
Yep.
But any defensive coach, you look at their style and you like it. You're like, man, I like some of the stuff this guy's doing, whether that be a professional level or maybe a former college coach or someone along the way.
Yeah, so many, man. Like there's so many great coaches out there, and I think it, no matter what I've done, whoever I interacted with, you grab just a little piece of each dude, right? And you're like, man, like I love this, what he does, like or what he stands for, what he does schematically, and how's this morph into what I'm doing? Not become that guy, but like, how does that little piece of something can help our players, right? If you're super focused on one goal, first of all, how can this help our players? I think you're doing something right in this profession, right? If it's all about you and your career and your resume and all sort of stuff, it's cool, but like, how does it help our players? So if someone's talking and there's so many great coaches out there, I try to go to conventions every year, try to meet new guys, try to learn from guys. But there's been some guys who directly influenced me. Bill McGovern's one of my guys, defensive coordinator at Boston College. I mean, he had just passed. He was at UCLA when he just passed tragically of cancer.
Hmm.
I rest his soul. I do a clinic every year in honor of him. Um, Trying to think. There's been so many. Mike Saravo is a great coach with the Vikings right now. He was my position coach at Boston College all 4 years. Just learning from different styles, right? Chris Robertson, my first head coach in college, who gave me my first opportunity at WPI. I mean, I still use a lot of his scheme, so it's, you just go into what can you learn from each guy, and, having access to all the film and all the schematic, just got to make it yours, man. You got to find a way to make it yours.
And then if you could give one piece of advice to high school Dan Mulrooney right now, go back in time, tell young Dan, what would you say to him?
Man, I think I made a lot of really good decisions that were decisions, um, made with thoroughness and with family in mind. And even though Boston College, I was hurt 2 years and kind of got taken away from me, uh, I wanted to be close to family. I wanted to go to a school that valued academics and valued faith and valued football. Uh, the advice I probably would give would probably be just a way to find an edge. When you're in college and you're going through high school and you're going through college and you just keep showing up and expecting to be great, you got to do more, right? So everyone works out, right? Everyone does the team workout, and then they all call their parents and say, I'm going to start this year. And then you're around some different dudes. Then you start to see what a first-round draft pick does, like Luke Kuechly or Matt Ryan. And you start to notice their behaviors are a little different than the rest of the teams. Um, how they ate, what they ate, how was their nutrition, how was their sleep. Why were they going to bed at 9 with no distractions? Why were they just finding an edge when, nobody else was? I've noticed that over time. So if I can go back, I would probably change my habits, in college, just to be able to get proper sleep, get proper nutrition, watch more tape. You get such a small window, right, to play football,
Hmm.
like 18 to 25. That's all you get, man. And if you're not living it, breathing it, everything's football for those 5 years, you'll end up regretting a part of it. And risk is a lot better than regret. You know what I mean? So what's the worst thing that could happen by trying hard? You know what I mean? Like risk is a much better way to live than regret. So not that I regret anything. I just wish I was advised correctly. You know what I mean? A little
And,
bit.
and what was it like playing with Luke? I mean, obviously Matt Ryan, Luke
Yeah.
Kuechly. I mean, Luke Kuechly, that guy, I swear every game you'd watch with him, it's so like, I don't want to say silent assassin, but you'd be like, he had like 20 tackles. Like, what was it about him?
He's just such a student of the game. On top of that though, he was a badass. So I'm not just saying he's smart and he's Clark Kent. Everyone says that, right? He just studied the plays and knew the plays before they came. Yes, he knew who was supposed to block him, and he studied film more than anybody. But he was also a badass, right? So he also would get through the line of scrimmage and smoke you too. He could bite the football, and his natural instincts were better than I've ever seen in my entire life. Right? You know how you coach kids from youth to high school, and you're just like,
Hmm.
that kid has a nose for the ball, or he's always around the ball somehow. He's always getting like intercepting a screen pass, or he's always like making these big hits. I've never seen instincts and nose for the ball like him. I mean, on top of it, he deserved it because he worked so hard. Um, but his natural instincts were second to none.
And then last few questions, Dan. What's your message to high school athletes? It's tough time in their lives, I say, because they're going through a lot of changes. Girlfriends, there's am I going to school here? Football, school, all that. What's your message to these kids? They got a lot going on. What's the message to them? I guess you know if their ambition is to play football at the next level.
Yeah, it's loaded, but I'm a super mindset person. Like all up here, you solve a lot of problems with having an elite mindset. So I would say the number one focus to me is setting goals, uh, making promises to yourself that you're not going to break. Right. So understanding that where you want to go is fully up to you. I mean, it really is, right? Like these kids have the world on their fingertips, and as much as they hear that every day, you could be an astronaut, you could be this, you could be that. Well, if you set a goal and you're disciplined and you're consistent, and it's you versus you every day, and you're not distracted, What's the worst thing that can happen if you don't hit it? You get close. That's still pretty damn good, right? So it's having a network behind you that believes in you. As a coach, I think it's all coaches' jobs. Okay, I think my number one trait that I have is I believe in kids. You know, if you believe in people, they go further, right? Why would you not believe in these players? Why would you not believe the people that bring you down only sink young players, only sink young student athletes? You need to find someone who believes in you. You need mentors. You need someone that believes in you and he'll push you and challenge you, care about you. Like you need to find those people, whether it's your parents or whether it's your coach. And I think there's a lot of coaches that get that confused. Your number one job is to believe in your players so that they go further, not down the other way. Um, I would say find those people, set goals, work your butt off, and most of the time it works out the way it's supposed to. Have a great network of people that care about you, and everything will work out pretty how it's supposed to.
Awesome, man. This was, I tell you what, Vince was a good start. You're a second, great interview. It's just, I could feel the passion from you as you're speaking. It's authentic. It's genuine.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I got a little bit of that New England accent there too. Do you say "park the car"? Is it?
Ah, wicked pa. Yeah. Okay. I don't have that. I'm not. I'm more a tri-state. I'm from Connecticut, so I don't have it.
All right. Yeah, they're saying the New England accent is going away. I just saw a
I think it's
video
fake. I
online.
think it's fake. I think people do it on purpose. That's my belief, at least. They do it on purpose for whatever reason.
So, last question. Where does Dan Mulrooney see himself in the next, 5 years? What's your goal?
Happy, happy. That I get asked that a bunch, and I just want to be a great dad. I want to be a great husband. I want to be a great son. I want to be a great brother. I want to keep doing what I'm doing. I don't work. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't work. I haven't worked in 14 years. Like, that's real. That's not me BSing you. Like, I go to work, right? But it's not work to me. Like, it's like the funnest thing ever. Like, this isn't work either. Like, my wife has work. She has to do with the kids, and she has a remote job. That's work. My brother has work. I just want to be in. I just keep wanting to be in this game. I love this game. Whatever comes from it, financially and whatever comes from it, career wise, I'm going to be blessed the whole time. And I've done it at every level: D3, D2, FCS, Division One, played at FBS. Whatever it may be. And I don't know where that is going to go. I really don't. I just want to be in it for as long as I can, and I want to die as a coach, right? Like that's everyone's dream, right? And I hope to be doing it. I'm not. There's no retirement date for me, is what I told my wife. So I hope I do it forever, right?
Well, I have a feeling that more and more people, if you haven't heard the name Dan Mulrooney, and not because of this podcast at all, I think in the few years you're going to learn more about the guy that I'm speaking with today. Just an incredible human being. The energy is, I mean, I would love to see you on that sideline during a game. I mean, obviously I've seen
I'm crazy.
you.
I probably look like an idiot, but to other coaches, they're probably like, look at this idiot, right? But it's real. I do. I have a blast coaching, and I run around. I'm jumping on players. I'm jumping up and down. It's a lot of fun.
Well, listen, Dan, I appreciate your time. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to come on the podcast. And I wish you honestly the most success in the world. Hope you continue to build Brown to just keep raising the roof, I guess. Who's the rival? I know it's the Ivy League, but is there a specific team that man you're ready for next year? Like we got them,
I mean, the most local team is probably Harvard. They're only about a half hour away. I'm not sure the actual rival. It might
right?
be Princeton or Cornell, but they're all
Are all, yeah.
because we've been playing each other for over 100 years. So, some of them that are exciting are the local ones for sure the most. But yeah, it's going to be a fun year. I'm excited for year two, version 2.0, right? So me and the players are working hard right now in the weight room and working hard in the off season to make sure version 2.0 comes to life.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thanks again, Dan. Appreciate your time, and best of luck to you.
Yeah, appreciate you, man.